Hi, this is MJ at Lioness Publications, and today we're going to start off with where we left off yesterday, and that is we're going to do China. Yesterday we looked at the leadership, and that gave us some insights into where the country may be going with his leadership. Today we're going to look at the country itself and see if that sort of follows with the leadership that the Jinping is actually looking at. So we're going to take a look at three charts. We're going to take a look at the natal chart with the transits, natal chart with the progressions, and natal chart with the solar arc. So first, what I want to mention is that when we look at the transits, one of the things we see, and this happened just recently in the past, is that we have Jupiter actually making a square to both the south and the north nodes. As I mentioned, this is typically something that brings up karma. It indicates that a country, in this case, may be faced with situations that have happened before, and they need to sort of move out of the way they normally deal with situations and move to a newer way of doing it. Sort of move into the future. Don't repeat patterns that didn't work before. And when I looked at the summit that was going on, and it seems that this was happening right about the time of the summit. And it's a good indication that China has moved beyond sort of isolating itself as it has done for centuries, and maybe is now embracing allies. We'll have to see if this is right, but it's definitely a positive step, because if this is the case, they've actually broken out of an old cycle that they had. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is they have an pattern, an configuration, Jupiter trying Venus. And this happened right around, it's actually going to happen on the 9th of September of this year. And it's very positive. It indicates that there's a national spirit, diplomatic grace, and the country is going to be viewed more favorably, which is the case. The summit really went a long way in showing that China is trying, and we're not talking about any ulterior motives here, but at this point, trying to bring some countries together to make deals, to see if they can make alliances. Now, this also from inside of China was probably very favorable. So there's a lot of public appeal to what was done with this summit, and to have all these leaders from other countries coming in, especially with the leader of Russia and the leader of North Korea. And the leader of India a few days previous was also a very important step. Now, the next thing we have coming up, and that's going to be right around October 1st, and it happens again right around Christmas on December 21st, is Jupiter is going to be opposing Jupiter. Now, it is a conflict. In this case, it's almost like opportunities against opportunities. So it's almost like there's too much that is being offered, but it's a conflict, which means you can't do it all. So this is probably going to end up that they need to sort of sit down and identify, where do they really want to go? So what are their aspirations? Where do they want their policies to go? What do they want their foreign policy to be? And also, how do they want to handle tensions? Because in effect, they will have many opportunities, and the problem here will likely be they can't take them all. What do they decide on? Now, after that, coming up in March 18th of next year, of 2026, we have Pluto that's going to be in conjunct to Uranus. Now, an in conjunct, as I've noted, break and adjust. It's a short-lasting angle configuration, but it's impactful. So in effect, comes along and breaks things, and you have to adjust quickly. You can't see them coming. So I don't usually think of this as something of, let's say, a war breaking out, because usually that's something that builds up. But more, it's like maybe a terrorist attack, maybe minor skirmishes, something you didn't see coming, and you have to adjust quickly to it. Now, this is usually destabilizing. So the fact that you have to adjust quickly is not something that governments can do well. They like to, in effect, plan things out and then move. Sometimes when you adjust too quickly, you over-adjust or don't adjust enough. Now, this could also indicate some power issues. Whenever you have Pluto and Uranus, what happens is you have freedom, people rebellion. And what is it? Pluto is coming down on that. So it could be a time that you start seeing some protests in China. Maybe not so much against the government, but just protests in general. If tariffs have done damage to their economy, this is definitely something that could be happening. So it wouldn't be amiss to say that there's going to be some economic tension here. Now, shortly after that, right around March 27th, we're going to be having Saturn square Uranus. Now, in this case, you think of Saturn as being the systems in place in the country, and it's more the structure. So how things get done, sort of the government, but not so much the force of the government, like Pluto coming down. Saturn is like what's there, the establishment type thing. And in this case, what's happening is that's going to have some disruption. So again, this could be stemming from the tariffs, the issue with that. But I'm saying maybe some type of sudden change here in authority. Maybe there's some crackdown on something that needs to be changed. It's not necessarily saying, complete, shutdown or rebellion against the government, sort of something isolated. Now, there is pressure on the leadership at this time, typically. So, and it's pressure to change things. So it is trying to move towards some type of reform or change in the way they're doing things. Now, in addition, April 20th of 2026, we have Saturn also opposing Sun. Sun is the national identity. So this is definitely a stressful time for the leaders in the government because it's going against the identity, and to have something coming down on that, so restrictive, because opposition is going to be restrictive, that indicates that maybe economic issues are coming up, maybe issues, not so much of freedom, but wanting to have less government, less, sort of foundational structures in place. But it also points to public dissatisfaction. So this is an indication that the public is going to be dissatisfied. Now let's move on to the progression. Progression only has one thing that I want to know. In this case, it's Mercury square Saturn. Now, Mercury square Saturn indicates that there's likely going to be some voices coming up, and that's the Mercury. And what's it against? Sun, the national identity. This would be typical of sort of protests coming up, maybe from the younger people, the students, where the evolving voices are coming up to voice a displeasure. Now, this is square, so there is tension. It's not just conflict that's going back and forth. It's tension. It's square. Now, it's going to clash with the foundational type of identities, which means likely the older people, maybe the people in power. And what it's saying is that we want changes to the national identity. And that's typical. As a country grows, as each generation comes up, they make their voices heard. They want to change things. They want the country to reflect them too. So that's normal. But if a country is already stressed, it can cause other issues. Now, if we look at the solar arc, what we have here, and this happens right around October 14th, we have Pluto trining Uranus. And this is a great angle. Trine is nice and easy. Uranus is, since it's in a friendly angle with Pluto, this means that innovation, making things better. So they can achieve through innovation. modernizing without the upheaval. So Pluto here indicates the powers that be are now using that to modernize. So this would be just a great thing for the country to actually start upgrading things, making things better for their people. I hope you enjoyed that and have a great day. Bye now.